David Seidler. You have had a long career. You were born in England, you came to America, you worked in Hollywood and television for a long time. You wrote Tucker for Francis Ford Coppola. And this story was something that you were drawn to from the very start of your life because you were a stutterer. What is the reason that it took so long for it to actually come to fruition? And what drove you to finally write it?
I'm a very slow writer. When I first seriously thought about writing it, which was in 1980, I had just written Tucker, the Man of His Dream for Francis. I was a very naive 40 years old. I came to Hollywood at 40, an age when any writer with any sense is thinking of leaving town. And when I wrote that script, I was naive enough to think that it would be made instantly, change my life forever, and I could write anything I wanted to in Hollywood. I certainly learned better than that. It took 10 years to get made, and it didn't change my life, and you can't write everything you want in Hollywood. But I started looking at Bertie because he'd been my childhood hero. I had studied from age 3 to 16. My parents had told me to listen to his speeches, that he was far worse than I, but look what he can do now. And I knew that as king, he was listened to syllable by syllable, often critically, and yet he had enough guts to do it, so I thought there was hope for me. So I always wanted to write something about George. I had no idea what the story was. That's all I knew was George. So I started reading, and there were these blips on the radar screen called Lionel Logue, his speech therapist. Not much is written about him, even in the biographies. The royal stutter is an embarrassment. You know, you must understand that stuttering was called until very recently a speech defect. So if you had a speech defect, you were ipso facto, a defective person. You couldn't have the King of England being called a defective person, so you don't talk about the stutter. But I could smell a story with Lionel Logue. I don't know if there are any reporters here, but you just sort of get a whiff of something. So I asked a friend in London to do a bit of research. I think it was looking in the telephone directory. And she found a surviving son, Valentine Logue. In the film, he's the young chap with his nose always buried in the textbooks. And he had become an eminent brain surgeon at Harley Street. I'm sure much to his father's delight, because Lionel always felt sort of denigrated by the rather snobby British medical community. I wrote to him, and he wrote back and said, yes, come to London if you wish, and I'll speak with you. And I have all the notebooks my father kept while treating the king. I thought, it's the mother Logue. But he had a small caveat to his letter. He said, I'll do this, but first you must get written permission from the Queen Mother. And that's when my American friends realized, yes, I really am still a Brit at heart. I'm an American, I'm proud of it, but I'm a Brit by birth. So I wrote to the Queen Mom, and I got a lovely cream-colored stationery envelope with a big red stamp of Clarence House. And she said, dear Mr. Seidler, please, not during my lifetime. The memory of these events is still too painful. Well, I thought, all right, you know, if a Brit asks the Queen Mum's permission and she says, wait, you wait, or you go to the Tower of London. But I didn't think I'd have to wait very long. She was an elderly lady. I could... 25 years later, at age 100, almost 102, she finally left this mortal world. So that's why it took a